Our next speaker, Dr. Tom Cowan. After graduating medical school in 1984, Dr. Cowan opened a general medical practice in upstate New York, then in New Hampshire, and then in San Francisco. During these years, he became a founding board member of the Weston A. Price Foundation and still serves as vice president. Dr. Cowan is the author of 6 books, including The Contagion Myth. And his books, 4 of them spent time on the Amazon bestseller list, and each was ranked #1 in their respective categories. Dr. Cowan, with his wife and 2 sons, have an organic and biodynamic business, and his website, drtomcowan.com, hosts his popular webinars, as well as being a source of great information on health. Dr. Tom Cowan.
There I go. Thank you, Maureen. And dear friends, I was asked to give a brief presentation on the issue of whether SARS-CoV-2 virus is the cause of an illness called COVID-19. Leaving aside for now the question of what exactly is COVID-19, the central question is, how does any scientist, any virologist, prove that a, quote, new virus is the cause of any illness? The answer is surprisingly clear and straightforward. It also mimics how any normal human being proves the causation of anything. The first thing one does is to find a number of people who seem to suffer from the illness in question. This could be COVID-19, AIDS, Hep C, or any other illness. Then, using standard and common virological isolation and purification techniques that have been in common use in every virology lab for decades. One would isolate the virus from every other substance in the blood, sputum, or tissues of the affected person or animal. Using electron microscopy, one then shows the world the pure isolated particles called viruses from each of these people. All of the viruses should look identical. The next step would be to analyze the genetic material of these identical particles using commonly available computerized genetic sequencing tools, which have also been available for decades. These sequences should also be identical from one particle to the next. Finally, these isolated, purified, photographed, and sequenced viruses would then be introduced onto test animals along with rigorous and appropriate controls to see whether the test animals develop the identical illness that the original subjects had. Then and only then, once these steps have been performed, can we say with confidence that this new virus is the likely cause of this new illness. During this past year, I have spent countless hours looking for evidence that these simple steps were done for the illness called COVID-19 and that the virus called SARS-CoV-2 was properly isolated and characterized. To my shock and surprise, neither I nor anyone else I know looking into this issue has yet to find a single published study that even attempted to perform these simple and doable experiments. To my further shock and surprise, I found that not only were these experiments not done with SARS-CoV-2, but they were also not done with AIDS, Hep C, measles, or any other illness supposedly caused by pathogenic viruses. As shocking as this may be to hear, I now ask that if you dispute this, please make available the paper or papers that successfully did these simple experiments. The usual excuses for this utter failure to perform the proper scientific experiments are such statements as, well, there's not enough virus material to see in the sputum of sick people, or viruses are intracellular organisms and therefore can't be found in this manner outside the cell. My response is, if there aren't enough viruses can't be found from the tissues or secretions of sick people using an electron microscope, then how can these same unfindable viruses have the potential to kill us all? And if the viruses can't be found outside the cell, so therefore don't exist outside the cell, then how on earth does it spread from person to person? Finally, it is incorrect to say that this procedure I outlined above is just one way to isolate and characterize viruses. The reality is, it's the only way. Clearly, logic and common sense dictate that if you have not isolated the thing you are looking for, there is no possible way to determine what the thing is made of or what it alone does. The implications of what I am saying are enormous. If there is no proof of pathogenic viruses, then what in the heck is making people sick? What is causing what people are calling COVID symptoms? Why do some diseases seem to spread between people, but never consistently? And most important, why are we locking down the whole world and risking losing an entire generation of children based on the fear of an imaginary virus? Unfortunately, I'm out of time now to address these questions, but I have made many videos that are posted on my BitChute and YouTube channels that do address these very questions. So please check them out. And please understand, I do not claim to have all the answers to these important questions of how and why we get sick. But one thing I do know for sure is that there is no solid scientific proof behind the theory of pathogenic viruses. And if we don't start asking these questions, things are only going to get worse and worse. Finally, I want to remind us all that there is no bad guy out there making us mask or isolate our children. There is no bad guy locking us in our homes. There is no bad guy injecting poisons into ourselves and our children. There is no bad guy ruining the businesses that we worked for generations to build. We are doing these things to ourselves. This means we have the power, the agency to stop these practices right now. All it takes is courage. Courage. Join me. We can do this. Thanks for listening.